Welcome to the 3Haunted podcast, where we bring you all things horror, supernatural, folklore, mythology, and all things that go bump in the night.
What's up, everybody? This is your co-host, Ashley Lunar Goddess, Gorilla Girl filmmaker and horror-loving cinephile. I'm just your average podcast-producing badass.
I'm John Thomas. Some would say that I go a little too far with my love of all things horror, paranormal, and meta, but I say, talk nerdy to me, and I'm all yours.
What's up, ghouls, gals, and meta pals? In today's episode, we'll be joined by medium, mentor, and author, Ioanna Serpanos. Welcome, Ioanna.
Thank you for having me. It's lovely to be here.
So excited to have you on. As people, listeners can tell, obviously you've got an accent. Where are you from? Where are you based out of?
So I'm based out of the beautiful side of the Southern Hemisphere in a country called Australia. I'm in Melbourne, which is one of the biggest cities in Australia. So yeah, Australian through and through.
I just realized that sounded so awful when I asked that because it's an accent to us, not to you. So
I was going to say, you guys have beautiful accents as well.
Yeah, pardon my ignorance in that moment.
All good, all good.
As soon as it came out of my mouth, I'm like, really? I just said that.
Oops, edit that, rewind.
Oops.
No, I mean, we're human. So yes, you have, for me, it is an accent, but it's a beautiful one. I love,
yes.
To me, when I hear anyone speak from Australia, to me, it sounds like a song.
Oh, thank you so much. It's funny. We are quite multicultural, so we have a blend of accents and, depending on cultural heritage as well. So, it's quite interesting. I actually have a Greek cultural background, so I'm fluent in Greek as well. And sometimes that also influences, even though I was born in Australia, you can sort of tell from different cultural backgrounds that how the language goes as well.
So we have you on because I had put out a post asking for anybody that was really involved in the paranormal, metaphysical kind of world. And you had been amazing and responded so quickly to me, which I appreciate very much, about being a medium,
Yes.
amongst many wonderful gifts. And so my first question to you is, how long have you been embracing your gift of being a medium?
So I have been working as a professional medium now for 22 years, actually this year. So quite a long time. But really, like all mediums, I guess we don't really not be a medium in any capacity, because we always have an awareness, even if we don't know what it's called. Spirit has been with me since a very young age, about 3. But I never knew I was a medium until someone actually said to me in my mid-20s, "Did you know that you're a medium?"
No, when they said that to you, was it one of those things where pieces clicked and you're like, oh, that's what that is? Or was it more, oh my gosh, what? Why would you say that to me? Like, what was your reaction to that?
Well, for me, it was the second comment there, because although I definitely had an awareness and I could see spirit when I was younger, everyone around me, so my family, would always tell me, oh, it's in your head, you're just having a dream, go back to bed, that type of thing. So it wasn't really normalized for me growing up. And I remember when I was told by she was actually a psychic, when she told me, in a workshop that we were doing, she said, I'm sorry, I don't normally do this, but Spirit's telling me that you're a medium and you need to develop it. Part of me had that chills, that feeling you get. And the other half of me was like a bit taken aback. And I'm like, what? Because my background, I'm actually an engineer. So I was professionally trained and I have a degree in engineering. So I came from a world, an automotive engineering, where it's practical, it's solutions driven, and it's logical and all those wonderful things. And suddenly I'm being confronted by something that is metaphysical, that's not tangible. And for me, my experiences, I thought, was just normal everyday experiences. And it wasn't until I started delving in and suddenly I went, okay. But I know when I was told that initially, something deep inside me resonated enough so that I went searching for a teacher, or a group, or how to develop. So I went to Google it and have a look and see what was it about, what is it? And maybe that's the engineering mind as well. But I decided that I would, go along and find a group to sit in and develop with. So I found this lovely group that had been sitting together for about 10 years, developing their their gifts. And I was a complete newbie. I rocked up straight from work in my suit, my power suit and how I was back then. They were all in their lovely, colours and crystals and whatever else they had. And so I looked at I just stuck out like, the proverbial sort of, I just was so different. And I'm sitting here totally curious. And the very first time, one of the ladies next to me got up. And so my very first experience was observing what I now know is a trance-speaking medium. And this lady got up and the whole group were giggling, going, oh, she's about to go. And I'm thinking, well, what's she going to do? And I was watching her and she stood up and then suddenly she spoke in this male voice and she was channeling spirit. And that was my very first experience of my, sitting in a circle, looking up at her going, what on earth have I got myself into? But at the same time, I was curious enough to stay. So it didn't scare me away, but it was like, what the hell is that? That was just something that was just so bizarre to me, yet fascinating. So, yeah, that was me.
Yeah, it's a bit startling, especially coming from the engineering world. Now, how did you reconcile those two worlds? Because I imagine it wasn't just like drop engineering and pick up metaphysical. Like, how were you able to reconcile that?
Yeah, so I kind of was in the closet, as a lot of us are, in the psychic closet for quite a few years. I developed over 3 or 4 years in a circle, and my logical mind started to draw and reflect on my experiences. And what I came full circle because I realized that science and mathematics are really the language of spiritualism or spiritualness, because it was all about energy. So all those things I was studying, quantum physics, light, all those energy circuitry, I found for me that I had a model of that I could explain mediumship with in practical terms. And that's one of my core philosophies is, one of my hashtags is less woo, more do, because we can explain it. There is science behind it. And when you can understand the science, for me, as much as I pulled it apart and went, it feels so opposite, when I came back full circle and went, actually, it's quite all right. It's pretty much okay. And my initial journey, I used to trade under just a business name. So, and I had just my first name only. I had a phone number to contact me. That was it. So my full name didn't go out there. And I worked in like that early on a Saturday morning and late on a Thursday afternoon as I was building up my practice and building up my experience. And then, as life comes along, most of your listeners would be aware of manifesting. I learned that I was bloody brilliant at manifesting because I decided I'd manifest a redundancy. And I in those days, I had my bank statement, I hand wrote redundancy payout, and I wrote a figure and I put it on my vision board. And I thought to myself, if I get a redundancy, I can give this side of my business an opportunity to blossom. And I've got a year because my redundancy would have covered me for a year. And if I don't make it in a year, then I just go back and no one would be none the wiser. And that was 22 years ago. And here I am 22 years on. So obviously, and I manifested within, I think it was $20. It was extraordinary. The actual payout figure, it was amazing and scary because it was like, oh my God, now I've done it. Now what? So it was, sink or swim.
You're like, now I've done it. Oh, I have to keep going.
I have to keep going. And I love it. I jokingly say I stopped working 22 years ago because it is my passion, my purpose. I absolutely love what I'm doing. I would never go back into what I used to do as much as I loved that. And I probably work harder now in my business, in inverted commas, longer than perhaps what I did in my corporate work. But I just love it. And every day I get up with a joy in my heart. I'm ready to get out there and work with people. I'm a big, big fan of prayer in the truest sense, not reciting Hail Marys or whatever. If that's what you want to do, it's great. But I'm a big believer in setting an intention up for the day. And I do that through prayer. And every day I wake up and I say, how can I serve my community today and take me to the greatest need? And, that for me is what just pumps me up and fuels me. And I just love it.
I am a firm believer in the idea that the energy that you put out is the energy you get back. And so
True.
the fact that I think it's beautiful that you start your day with how can I help my community? Because that's also something that is going to vibrate back to you. I'm assuming unintentionally, but that is going to be a beautiful byproduct, right? Of the fact
Yeah.
that you are so giving to your community.
Always unintentionally. I think if you do it with an ulterior motive, the spirit world's clever. They've got your number. They're not going to sit there and, support you if you're doing it with ulterior motives. You really have to be pure in intention. I just ask that without expecting anything to come back. And, and generally I have really great days because I know I help people in so many different ways. And I see lives changing on a daily basis. And I see it like perhaps I'm planting seeds of light. And what they decide to do with that is everyone's free will and choice. We should never, it's never about saying to people, you must do this or, this needs to be your path. But we can certainly inspire and we can inspire change. And that's what really, for me, is the most humbling thing, just seeing people. You plant a little seed, they take it, they grow it, we get to witness it, or I get to witness it for a portion of their journey. And for me, that's just so humbling and it's such a privilege. And then they go on their path and do whatever they need to do in their world and hopefully also transfer seeds of light to wherever their communities are. And it's just a beautiful, beautiful way to embody living and breathing that metaphysical energetic world that we're in and incorporating it into our physical world.
What was your personal community's response as you started to come out of your spiritual closet?
It was kind of mixed. Some of my engineering colleagues went straight into, that left brain. Well, are you qualified for that? And, how did you? So there's those sorts of questions, which, I guess are logical on some level. Some of my closer community and friends were bemused, like, you gave up that career. And I had a very successful career in my corporate. I was very high up in the senior executive and, they're like, that's just blown us away. You've walked away from all that. But for me, it wasn't about the material. It wasn't about what the dollars were and, all the perks, the cars and, the phones, this, that and the other. It wasn't about that for me. And others embraced me fully and some fell away, and that's okay. Sometimes we need to, let people, we just have to let people go. The gardening analogy would be that we're trimming some of those branches to make room for growth. And others I found fell away, but then came back when they caught up on their awakened journey. So I've reconnected with people, that I knew when I was 15, 16, 17 years old. And suddenly we've connected on this level through spirituality. And my community has grown. It's become more conscious. It's become more authentic. The people that are around me are people that I choose to be around that are in alignment with who I am, and my community has grown. So, it's a life well lived if you can say that you're quite content in life. And I can truly hand on heart say that I'm really quite content with life. And that for me, it wasn't always the case, like all of us, when we go for that search, we're looking and, a lot of things happen. But when you can get into that state where you know that you are an eternal being, you know who you are and what your place is in the universe, and you can continue that way. It's a great place to be. And it doesn't mean we don't get day-to-day challenges. Everyone does. Welcome to Earth life, right? We're here, so that's the human aspect. But how we move through that is very different. So, yeah, lots of change. I'm happy to say most of the people in my life these days, that I have a direct influence or ability to choose, are pretty good, and they're very much on board. Like all us on the spiritual journey, we can't choose always who's around us, and obviously that extends to family, etc. Whether they're biological, they've married into your family, or whatever they are. And some of those people are our greatest teachers as well. And they may not always be in perfect alignment, but I do believe they are very much there for our soul growth and journey as well.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think every individual we encounter, we're learning from, whether it's a pleasant lesson or not.
So true, so true. And sometimes it's what not to do or not to be, right?
Yeah, exactly. So for you, what is mediumship? Because
Yeah.
I feel like it can be different for each medium, what that looks like. So what does that look like to you?
Yeah, so mediumship on the purest level is to demonstrate. We've got a job as a medium to do two things. And one is to demonstrate that life is eternal, that we are eternal beings. And evidential mediums, which I am, our job is to demonstrate that through providing evidence to our sitter, to the person in front of us, that is irrefutable for them, that categorically says 100% we say who we have, who we say that we have. And then we bring in the love aspect to it. The love is eternal as well. Beautiful messages of love, hope, inspiration. The sorries, I should have said that I didn't get a chance to say, the regrets, the healing. And so ultimately it is a healing modality, without a doubt. Mediumship comes broadly into three categories. One of them is, we call it mental mediumship, which is the evidential mediumship I talked about, the providing of the messages that happens through the mental faculties. There is also the healing mediumship, of which I am also a healing medium. So we're linking to healing beautiful spiritual people in the spirit world that are healers, doctors, shamans, that we are then channeling healing through, or transmitting healing through. Us, the medium, we are the medium, and into the recipient. And the final one, which I love as well, is the philosophy or the speaking mediumship. And speaking mediumship, or the philosophy, is the words of wisdom from the inspired teachers, the masters. They are beautiful, universal words that resonate to all of us. So they go past race, gender, geography. So they're accessible. They're truths that are for all humanity. And I feel that part of mediumship is equally as important, and we can start with it for ourselves. But there are some beautiful spiritual teachers that have, published books and that are out there that have these universal truths that everyone can resonate to.
Thank you for breaking that down. I've never heard the different categories, so that was helpful.
That's the teacher in me. I'm so sorry.
No, I love that, because that's how my brain oftentimes connects to and pieces things together. So thank you for that. So when people are trying to connect to their loved ones, is that more of the evidentiary aspect of mediumship?
Yeah.
So when you're receiving messages through the healing, whether it's connecting to a shaman or another spiritual healer in the spirit world, or a philosophical end with the message, do you know who you're connecting to, or is it just a different feeling that you get?
So when I do the healing, I don't get totally involved because I go into what's called the trance state. So the less of me involved. Obviously, we set up intentionally at the beginning of the healing what we want to achieve, and then I let go, and I'm not too invested in bringing my mind into the equation. And I just allow for that channeling, knowing that there is a divine intelligence. We know that. So the right energy will come through at the right time for the right person. And we just have to get out of our way when we're doing that type of work. Unless there is a link to a loved one within the healing, and then I am involved and I would be able to say to the person, I do have, like, for example, I'll share a story if I may.
Absolutely.
I had a wonderful, wonderful man who I now see on the other side quite regularly because his family visits fairly regularly, who had terminal cancer. And he was someone that was very blokey, as we say in Australia, very manly. He would never have, looked at mediumship or anything metaphysical in any way, shape, or form. And he came because his wife, his darling wife, wanted him to have a little bit of healing to help with his cancer journey, knowing that he was terminal. And I remembered working on him, and I realized that he hadn't told her how little time he had left. He was trying to be protective. He was that beautiful masculine husband. She thought she had longer with him. And as soon as I put hands on him, I thought, oh, wow, you are completely riddled. And I did speak to him about that. I said, you're really a lot further down here than what you've let on. And he said, yes, I don't want to upset my wife and other reasons. And that was perfectly fine. But during that healing, knowing that he was terminal, I gave him healing in the space of whatever he needed in order to make his transition to the spirit world as peaceful as possible. And when I set that intention, I suddenly linked to his brother who was already in the spirit world. And his brother came to me, and I described his brother to this man, this bloke. And I said, this is what he's like, and this is what he's telling you. And at the end of his session, I'll never forget him. He opened his eyes and he looked at me and he said, do you mean to tell me that I get to see my brother again when I die? And I said, absolutely. I said, your brother will be waiting, because that's the message. The nature of the message was, I'm here. I'm going to help you transition. And he nearly floated out of my healing space. So joyous. It was incredible. And, then he passed away a couple of weeks later. And now, as I said, I have the honour and privilege every so often, and probably every 6 months or so, one of his family members will come and see me. And I get to because I met him in the physical, but now I get to see him again in the other world. And it's amazing to see his journey on the other side, how he's transitioned, how open he is now, and how that journey has gone with the family. It's just beautiful.
And he gets to be with his brother.
I mean, that touched me in such a real way. It was incredible. So, and that's why I love doing what I do, because there are so many experiences like this that gives you a sense of, we're more than just the physical. We're more than our physical being. And there's a real comfort in that. There's just, and I've had a first-hand near-death experience myself, so I know I've sort of peeked into that world, and I know that it's a beautiful world. So it's made my view of what is life and death in inverted commas very different now to the one I grew up with.
In that moment, you were a conduit in being able to give him light, as you said, that seed of light in such a heavy time, because
Yes.
that cloud that had to be over him, one, that he's leaving, he's leaving his wife to go into the next phase, and also just that fear of, we don't know what's on the other side, what's going to happen. And the fact that light was given to him, and that one positive he could take with him, like, yeah, this is not fun, this is awful, but I get to see my brother, he's gonna help me over. Like, that's really beautiful.
Yeah. it's like I said, it was one of those, beautiful moments that I'll never forget. And it made me realize just how important it is to spread that word that we are eternal and that our loved ones are never lost to us at all. And I think that is so powerful just to know that.
Now, you said you had a near-death experience. Are you open to sharing that?
Yeah, absolutely. I was going through a very difficult time in my life. It would have been 12 years ago. Oh, actually, yeah, about 12 years ago. I was a young mother at the time. I had a 3-year-old, and I was in the process of going through a separation from my husband at the time. And in the grief of that and the background of what was happening around that, I I had this incredible experience where, I was driving to work. I had a healing center at the time, and I dropped off my child at the childcare place. And while I was in the car driving in 4 lanes of traffic, I got a massive pain in my heart, and my hand fell from the steering wheel. And in a moment, in the blink of an eye, I was floating above my body, watching myself driving. And I got shown, it was like I got pulled out of time, and I got shown what would happen. So I had a choice. I could have kept going. And then I got shown that my car would drift to the right, and that I would take out the 3 cars on the side of me, because we're all peak hour traveling. The guy on my left was going to sort of swerve, watching my car, and kind of crash into someone else because of what was going to happen with me. And I had this moment where I was just suspended in this incredible space of unconditional love. And I had a real defining moment where I knew that I was me, like the point of consciousness, that was me. But then I was very aware of being connected to everything else as well. So it's that old adage, or that old model of being the drop of water and the whole ocean. Like, I knew I was me, but I also knew there was no barriers between me. And I had this lovely angel, benevolent being, I don't know what you want to call it, just this beautiful smiling face, reminding me what my purpose was, and just no judgment. I had the choice in this particular time. Do I keep going or do I go? And what brought me back with such a stark thing was I kind of went, who's going to pick up my child? Instantly I was like, oh my God, who's going to pick up my child? And with that thought, I was
Always
back
a mom.
always a mum. And I was back in my body, and I was distressed, tingly, and things were, obviously I was meant to be here, because the trip from where I was to where my healing center was should have taken 15 minutes. Somehow I've ended up right outside my center in 5 minutes. It defies logic. I managed to, some bizarre way, I've rang my assistant and told her that I was having a heart attack. She came running out, jumped in the car, and took me straight to emergency. And it was the weirdest, surreal thing. And I had a moment when I came out, and I said to her, I think I died for a moment. And she looked at me, and she didn't say anything at the time. She was very spiritual. But a few months later, she said, Spirit told me you actually did die briefly. And that whole experience for me then became solidified. And I also, it erased my fear around moving forward in life in general, but certainly in my spiritual journey. And it propelled me forward after that, because I knew 100% that I would be okay if I ever went to the other side. I just, after that experience. So it's hard to explain, but you just know you're going to be okay. So it just propelled me forward after that. And my life just got very much in alignment with my purpose. And I did not leave. I've been in that lane ever since.
Yeah, it sounds like you needed to experience that for just a moment to really, like you said, align you on that path, because that's what you're spreading. That's the message that you're sending, is that, we are eternal, and that fear doesn't need to be there, and that there is love, and like everything that you experienced in that brief moment is everything you're sending out into the world and helping others heal through. So that's so powerful.
It was amazing. So yeah, that was my little, as you say, brief moment to solidify my purpose. So yeah, incredible.
That's so phenomenal. I do feel like a lot of us, anybody that has felt like there's more to them, that they have gifts or there's something that they're suppressing, oftentimes the fear is what keeps that disconnect, right? From that alignment of occurring. So you being able to experience that and help spread that word probably does help people tune into themselves a bit more and get over that fear. But because that's a very real fear.
It is, because we don't know. And, if anyone's seen anyone, and a lot of people have seen their loved ones passing, the physical body does its thing, and it's scary, and it's not always pleasant. I get to witness the soul leaving, and I watch, because often people will come and say, well, who was with me, who was with them when they passed? And I get to see that transition. And because I've lived it briefly, very briefly, obviously I haven't gone through a whole, death and no defibrillators and all that sort of thing, but I got to understand it. And it is a very peaceful process, and it's full of love. They are absolutely rejoicing on the other side when our spirit goes back to the spirit world. And it's like, how we greet babies on this side. We get so excited, new life is coming. For them, it's like the soul is going back, and it's like a new birth for them. So it's, it's a party, and it's exciting because, oh my gosh, they're back. Whereas we're crying on this side, and we're full of grief because we think we've lost them. And we have in the physical, but we certainly haven't energetically in their soul body.
Did you find that growing up, because I know you said you've kind of been experiencing levels of this world since you were about 3, did you find growing up that giving your specific gifts of mediumship, that people gravitated to you more consistently, talking to you, telling you all of their history?
I've got the neon light over my head saying, come and speak to me. It doesn't matter where you go, and, anywhere you are, they will gravitate. And often within first 2 or 3 minutes, they're telling you everything. But spirit has this beautiful way. I'm more conscious and intentional with it now. The other day I was at my local farmer's market, and I just gravitated across to a man that was selling homemade pasta, gnocchi, that type of thing. And I wasn't really looking for that kind of stuff. I'm a great cook. I can do it myself. But I just found myself going over, and I could sense that spirit's pushing me this way. And we got chatting, and he told me it was his boys that were making the pasta, and it was their business. And he got 2 seconds later, he starts crying, and he's saying, oh, my mum, their nonna, he was Italian, their nonna, taught them when they were boys, and now they're adults, and oh, if only she could see them. And I just watched him. I thought, okay, this is where I was being pushed. The nonnas pushed me across. So I knew he wasn't going to accept, and I don't give unsolicited readings like that. I think it's not fair because he was in a public space. But he got emotional in my presence, and I knew it was because he could feel his nonna. So I just looked at him and I smiled. I said, I am 100% sure that she knows her recipes are being used and that your boys are doing them. And that's all I needed and to say. And he just got relief. And it was weird because his booth was full the whole time. But when I moved over, everyone disappeared. It was just me and him. he had that moment, and then suddenly all these customers came back for him. It was the weirdest thing, but it was also beautifully, that again demonstrates divine intelligence. So his nonna, the boy's nonna, his mum was so adamant that she wanted to get across that she knows. So she used me as a instrument for spirit as I was just meandering along in this market to kind of pass on that beautiful message. And he's going, oh, I'm not really a believer of all that medium stuff. I thought, well, you're talking to one now, but I didn't tell him. He said, but I don't know, maybe there's something in it. I said, I think you might find there is something in it. And I just left it with that little seed of light. That's all he needed. And, I know that he got healing right there because he could feel her, the essence of her, through me being close to him.
I love the finesse on that because he didn't need to know the other stuff, right? Like for that message, he didn't need the full book. It was just, this is the message
Yep.
for you in a way you understood how to
Yeah.
deliver it to him,
Yeah.
that he would receive it. And I love that. Like you said, kind of hinted at earlier, you took the you out of the equation.
Yes.
You're just like, here's what you need.
Yeah. It was literally just an act of service without, it wasn't selling my, what I do. It wasn't about that. It was just that little bit. And I found that I did that. I do that a lot, even when I travel. I just got back from an overseas trip recently, and I was in the UK, and twice the same sort of thing. I got approached indirectly by someone, and next thing you know, a little message was planted. And same with another lady, but she did know. She heard that I was a medium, and then she said, "Oh, do you mind? Can I ask something?" And I said, "Not at all." And I just took her to the side where I was just in a cafe having a coffee, and I just took her aside. I was with friends, and I just moved aside and said, and she goes, "I'm so sorry to do this." I said, "Not at all." And we sat, and I connected for her husband and just brought us some reassurance there. And she apologized so many times. She's like, "Can I buy you some lunch?" I said, "I'm fine." I said, "Literally, we've got, I'm here with friends." But it was just my way of just being able to give back a little bit to her because she was obviously in need as well.
In your journey of becoming more, what's the best way to, in your journey of stepping into mediumship and developing a process for you to be able to channel, did you find it difficult to find the balance between being drained and finding the space for yourself for like resetting and re-energizing, or was that something that was just kind of intuitive to you?
So mediumship as a rule shouldn't drain you. It actually lifts and inspires me. I get very ignited. So I don't actually ever get drained with mediumship. And if you're doing it properly, which means you're developing your power, your energy, and you're utilizing that in the proper way, you should never get drained. So I don't actually get drained. But I also am very firm with my boundaries. So I was happy to be an instrument in those cases I mentioned. But there's other times where if I feel people are pulling, I can say no. That is free will, and we need to be very careful about our energy. So my energy that I have, my personal energy, is guarded very ferociously, and I do energy practices for myself where I'm regularly taking time out to balance. Because I work professionally, I will make sure that I take regular time off to reset. I also have almost weekly energy healings for me, whether it's acupuncture or having a Reiki or something like that. And that just gives me, it's my maintenance of my energy body. And I also, I know that how much rest if I need to have. So I do all those things, and I've become really good at it. Initially, like all of us in this area, we're such givers, we just give. And over time, I've learned that I can't just give. So what does drain me is the people that attach to you constantly and ask your opinion on everything. Because, of course, all mediums are psychic as well. So I used to have a friend who I no longer have, because every day she would ring me to ask my feel on her latest person that she dated, you know, whatever was going on, she would always ring and ask me. And the relationship it was all about ringing and asking me. It was like I became her personal psychic. And the defining moment was when she was sitting on a couch in a furniture store. And she rang me and she said, "What's your feel? I'm at such and such a store and I'm sitting on this couch." And I rolled my eyes and I said, "What's your feel? Your butt is on there, not mine. Does it feel comfortable?" You know, like what? And it was like ridiculous. So in the end, that was the last, you know, defining, where I thought, now that drains me like beyond. So I cut that off, and I make sure that the friendships that I have are there for me and not for the clinging of whatever you can give for them. And I cut it off because that was just incredibly draining, and it wasn't a balanced thing. So balance needs to come in quite clearly. Sometimes you can also get, you know, pulled by spirit for whatever reason. And I remembered finishing a 2-day workshop that I was running, and I went to the movies on a Monday morning knowing that the theatre would be empty and it was just my time to switch off. And while I was in there with a friend, I think we were the only two in the whole theatre, there was a spirit man there trying to get my attention. And I was like, no. I just said, no, I'm not working, and I don't care what you want or don't want, I'm not on. And he was persistent for a little bit and then he disappeared. And that's because my boundary, and I love that man because he taught me right there about really having strong boundaries. And I know he was sent for that purpose.
That was your lesson.
Yeah.
Yeah. And for me, I think when I asked about the draining portion, I was kind of thinking about it from the 3D person aspect, because I imagine having a gift where you can channel, especially the lost loved ones, there are a lot of people pulling at your attention. And it sounds like that one person turned you inadvertently into their kind of personal crutch for every decision. And for me, I tend to be more, well, I'm still walking blind mostly, but I tend to be more of the person that just feels the emotions and the energies and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it can be, I find for myself personally, it is more draining from actual people than it is spirits. Kind of like what you were saying, you can feel presences, and for me, it almost feels like someone just kind of tugging at me.
Yeah.
Like, hey, pay attention. Hey, you there? And I'm like, no, go away. I don't want to know. Whereas it's a little harder for me boundaries wise, especially with people. It almost feels stronger for me. When it's a spirit, it feels more like a tugging. And when it's a person pulling at my energy, it's just like, oh, why? I need to learn those boundaries to be able to kind of turn that pull into more of like the tug, because I find for me, I get agitated. Like if someone's continuously pulling at my energy, even if I know they're not intentionally doing it, but I can feel it, I get really annoyed.
I get that. And can I challenge you? Yeah, you
Please
agree?
challenge me.
I'm going to challenge you if I may. So the reason we feel that is because we're on another level checking in. So it's actually us. It's driven by us, as much as it's annoying, and it can be. And I get you. I've walked that walk. So both, you know, Ashley and John, I definitely, you know, get you. But it is actually us on a level checking in and seeing, or having our, you know, energy field, our auric field out so far out. So we have to learn to bring it right in quite close to us consciously, because our natural ability with sensitives is that we're out there like a twinkling star. We need to bring it in, and then we don't get caught up in the stuff. And one of the other things that I do daily is I use a very simple statement. What is mine. Everything else, please take away. And that statement means that you are retaining what's yours in your energy field. You're removing everything else. I don't need to know what it is. I don't want to get involved in it, but I need to remove it. But it also builds up discernment. So you can think, oh, that's mine, but that wasn't mine. And I can pull that away. And as we get stronger with our boundaries, because a lot of the sensitives, the psychics, they do have gut issues, for example, which is all about boundary. We get leaky guts and all that sort of thing. It's all about boundaries. So when we learn to strengthen that, we start, a lot of that plug in from other people doesn't happen. I agree. Early in my journey, I couldn't go to busy stadiums or shopping centres without just coming back and going, whoa, what was that? And now my boundaries are so strong. I could go in the middle of the busiest, whatever, in the middle of a grand final and not be impacted. The only time I'm impacted is when I'm not quite right. So my, I might be unwell or emotionally out for whatever reason. And then I know that I need to resort to some of those techniques that I talked about. What is mine is mine. Everything else, take it away. And that's a good way of just checking in and pushing everything out that's not part of our own journey.
Yeah, I'm with you completely. And I think I get frustrated with myself because I get annoyed. Because to your point, I know this is a me thing. Like, I'm the one that's open to receiving this. This is not their fault.
Yes.
And so for me, I get agitated and annoyed, and I think that's more of an internal frustration. Like, why can I not control this? And then I also get extra frustrated because I'm like, oh, it's not their fault. And here I am annoyed with them. Here I am wanting to, kind of knee-jerk reaction, withdraw and completely envelop myself so that I can't receive that. And it's just learning, like you said, learning to find my boundaries.
Yes.
And control how much I'm receiving, because I'm the one it's me. I'm the one that's open, not them.
It's me. Hi, I'm the problem.
Good. Yeah. And try not to be frustrated with yourself. Be kind to yourself, because that's how we learn. And we learn, we make changes when either we're motivated positively or something bugs us. We get frustrated. Yeah. So it's the only way we're going to make the change. And for whatever reason, your soul's agreed to have it that way. And we can't help that. And of course, the more you're working with the public, the more that they will hook in on you. They will send you messages at, stupid o'clock at, I think someone sent me something once. I think it was, 4 a.m. on New Year's Day. Oh, hi, can I have a reading? No, because I am having a holiday like everyone else, and I don't even respond. I respond back in business hours, and I do that on purpose because I'm teaching them what my boundaries are. Yeah. Old me, I would have woken up and gone, oh, I'm so sorry, I'm not here right now, and and responded. And it was like, no, that's, it's normal and logical that not everyone, obviously people work over our medical professionals, whatever. But I would have said, no. So I respond back in those business times because that's what I want them to understand, that is my boundary, and it's hard and fast. And for me, doubly so, because I am that sole parent. I want to also manage my time with my own family and my business time, my personal time, and then when I'm available to work for spirit as well. So it's so important. And we've all been there, and we forget sometimes. I'm not saying I'm perfect at it. There's even times when I think, and then I go, oh, gentle reminder, you've just, boundaries have moved a little, pull them back.
I think, and I'm sure you can relate to this given your cultural background as well, we get in some cultures taught you help always. You always help your community first. You come second. And so answering those 3 a.m., 2 a.m. calls from someone who's completely just drunk and depressed and putting everything on you, no matter who it is, it's like, I just met you. Why are you calling me? Because they feel that draw to, you're the person that can heal them. You're the one that can fix them. Having that consistently happen just in life, like you said, having that neon light, it is especially empowering. and I imagine I'm not the only one that needs to remember this or learn this and hear this, it is empowering to know you don't have to answer the phone. You don't have to respond to the text message. You also have to take care of your own mental and emotional and spiritual well-being, because that also, like you and myself, we have kids. That draining and that transference, at least for me, it becomes a transference of energy, can absolutely impact. It radiates and can impact throughout your family if you can't stop that, ground it out.
Yeah.
It can affect you. And so
Yeah.
that's a lesson I still I'm working on.
That's okay, as long
Yeah.
as you're making progress.
Yeah. And it's not just in family. Like, I find it at work a lot too. Like, because I can feel a lot of energy, and lately we've all been stressed at work just because of reasons and everything else. Me especially, because I'm being pulled in different directions that I haven't been pulled in a while, and taking on responsibilities that I haven't done so in a while. And it's getting to the point where I'm just telling everybody, you know what, just sit down, shut up, leave me alone for about 5 minutes. Like, I hate being that way, and I say it a lot meaner, but it's just,
I heard in my mind what
like,
you say.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just it's sad that I have to say that, but I'm just like, guys, like, I'm trying to make everything better. I'm trying to help us and get this going, and we've just got to calm down. We've just got to get back to however, and it's like, so their energy just keeps feeding into me, and I try to, like, block it, and it's been a while since I've blocked stuff like that, and so I need to get into the practice of doing the same thing. But yeah, it's just
And you
ridiculous.
can see with you, John, you're highly empathic, and you're actually a natural healer as well. So you are the person that they do come to. I can just see the colours in your aura. You're someone that they come to, and they dump all their problems. And
Yes.
and while it's a lovely and a noble thing to do, we've always got to make sure that we are looking after ourselves. Otherwise, we can't help anyone at all.
Right.
And you've got that really lovely, gentle nature to you. And so it happens is you take, and then suddenly you explode because it's too much, right?
Right.
And so, again, in the workplace, some techniques that you can do. If you have an open office, then just imagine a room of gold light being placed around you. Visualize a door from wherever it is that you are, wanting people to approach you from. And, so pop yourself in that room, and then metaphysically you hang the do not disturb sign on that door, and it's like an energy barrier. And you do the work, right? And then, because we're so wired now, the minute the phone rings, we've got to answer it. That's why Do Not Disturb is on our phones, because we can consciously put that on and not be disturbed, right? And so do that as well. And that way you're stopping it. And the other thing a technique I've always used in corporate as well is I've hung an energetic air curtain metaphysically over the door so that it sweeps away all the negative and all the drama before they come into my space. So guarding your space is really important too. So just a couple of little hints and tricks there that work. And the more you get intentional with it, the better it works for you with time as you start to learn. We're all on a learning journey. None of us are, we don't just learn. We don't just arrive on this earth plane knowing it all like that. We've got to remember it again.
Right. Very cool. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Given the line of work that I'm in professionally, I'm honestly more surprised that I don't get overwhelmed like I used to, because I'm around thousands of people at any given event. I think I've learned how to filter that out. I think when it's intentionally directional at me that I've got to work on.
Yeah. So remember, you've got to be the circuit breaker for the culture. And I get that. I have a similar culture. And, we've got to be the circuit breakers for us and the next generations that come forward. And we've got to learn it energetically.
I've been trying to teach my daughter that. Like, I tell her, it is not your problem to solve.
Love it.
If we can help somebody and we feel that there is something we can do without sacrificing ourselves, sure. Like, but if it becomes, it's going to be detrimental to you to help them, I'm like, then we need to talk about that.
Well done. Well done.
So we gotta stop the pattern somehow.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
So for the, you said you have certain practices that you developed to protect your energy and to help you cultivate your mediumship. And I'm sure your many other gifts, because we rarely have just one. Did you learn that through your being mentored and that group that you were a part of? Or was a lot of it intuitive?
That group was good for a number of reasons, and for some of it was what not to do as well. So you've got to be discerning in who you mentor with or learn with as well. So that first group for me taught me some things, but it actually taught me what not to do more so, which was quite good. I self-developed for a lot of my own journey to a period of time. And then I had the honour and the privilege to meet my mentor who did pass away. She's in the spirit world now. And that my mentor for mediumship was a lady by the name of Mavis Patilla. And she had been teaching mediumship for over 50 years, an incredible lady full of philosophy, and her philosophy was brilliant. And she really ignited my soul, and I was able to really step into being that teacher and that mentor, which is my core work. That's what I love to do through her, through getting to know her. And so then what she did for me, and this is what I feel a good mentor would do, is she put what I knew and what I'd naturally developed into context. She wrapped a framework around it. She gave me a language because being self-developed, I didn't have a language for mediumship. And she gave me a language there as well. But a really good mentor should, by their very nature, just by being in their presence, ignite your own soul. So she was never instructional, step one, do this, step two, do that. But she was very much about, seeing you and seeing your potential and helping you see that potential. And so that was what I gained and benefited from her. And I was able to put that into practice in my own practice, where I'm able to, see people's growth, see their potential. Being engineering trained, I do have processes or mechanics, if you like. And I think the mechanics and the processes are very useful when you first start out. If we're going to drive a car, we need to know what the road rules are. We need to know how to change gears. We need to understand how the car works. And then there comes a time where we develop our own driving style. And that's what mediumship is like as well. We have to understand the basics, and then we need to develop our own style of who we are and how our gifts express, how are they, sent out into the world. And so I've been mentoring people now for around 15 years. And, my passion is to empower you, I guess, with the tools, but to build trust and confidence in yourself and in your spirit team, more importantly. I do believe the best teachers are our guides, our spirit teachers. But people like me are here to signpost it a little bit, to give you a bit of an overview. One of the things that I do is conduct what's called a spiritual assessment, where I'm looking at the colours of the soul to work out where you are right now and what potential you have in the future, in terms of what your soul expression is. And we can work through that. Because I have such a strong business background as well, one of the things that I do that is unique to me is that I'm able to not only teach you the mechanics of the spiritual side, but to also give you some guidance around how to set up a business and set it up properly and what those structures are as well. And I know that a lot of our people in our field, we're wonderful healers and creatives and mediums and all the rest of it, but we're not very good at understanding business and how do we run business as well. And that's something that's very core to me. I grew up in business. My family had businesses as well. I remember standing on a box, on a crate, as a 10-year-old, operating the till at my father's supermarket. He owned a supermarket at the time. And, he taught me old school how to count out change, none of this typing in as they do now. And, that was my first sort of business experience all the way through to being at the top of my field in the corporate world, as a senior executive there and a general manager, and everything in between. So that part is something that's very strong in my background as well. So I love what I do. I was, always grateful to my beautiful mentor, Mavis, and she certainly taught me what to do. So sometimes we have these brilliant teachers that come in and show you the way, and she definitely had a very deep love and respect and reverence for spirit, and that certainly comes through with me as well.
When you are connecting with spirits, is it something that you're feeling and experiencing through the spiritual connection, or are you able to actually see and hear these spirits?
I do have what's called objective seeing and hearing. So I have seen spirit manifest in front of me, and I can hear them in their language, how they speak. So I've done readings. I did a reading in Italian once. I don't speak a word of Italian, but I could hear the Italian and I was able to pass it on. I don't operate with those two senses all the time. It's a hard world to live in when you see spirit manifest. So most of the time I use the other skills, which is subjective, clairvoyance, clairaudience. So I feel, I see, I hear, I have taste and scent, and I have knowing all open. So all those senses work with me. And a lot of the time, but I'm very clairvoyant, so I'm very visual. I learn visually as well. So I do see it very clearly. But fortunately, most of the time it's a picture or like a movie in my mind rather than they're manifesting in the physical. But I have seen spirit in the physical. Every so often I will get them in the physical and I literally will turn and think, oh, someone's standing there. And it doesn't always happen, thankfully. I've just said to my people upstairs, I prefer it the other way. But, obviously I'm open to whichever way that they can come to me when I'm working. But generally I like it the other way. It's easier to work that way.
Do you have boundaries set in place of certain places or spaces that they are not given permission to attempt to contact you through?
100%. When I sleep, I love my sleep. I need to rest. They are not to wake me up. And I get very cross if they do. So that's a very hard and fast boundary. I remember it happened once to me where it cut through and I woke up in so much pain and I could see something black going around my optic nerve. And I heard brain tumor, and I had a moment of being pulled out of my sleep with this horrible pain. And I thought, goodness me, am I getting a brain tumor? I was, disoriented, and I came out and I couldn't work. I had to cancel my day's sittings the next day, and I was in terrible pain. And late afternoon, it had gone. And the next day, I had to move my sittings, and I ended up sitting for this gentleman. And that pain all came back again, and I realised it was one of his people who had passed from a brain tumour around the optic nerve. And so while part of me was like, oh, passing all this information, the cross side of me, the boundary side was like, right, I'm going to have a talking to my team because this is not on. So I finished my day's sitting and I just said, do not ever, ever do that to me again. But I understood the gentleman that came to see me was really, really frightened about seeing a medium. He'd never come before. And there was something about that, for me to have that experience, and it took me out for the day, was because he got wobbly for that day anyway. So they got him there the next day. Spirit got him there the next day. But it took me out for the day. And I was like, no way, do not do that again. So quite interesting.
So for your spirit team, because we've talked to people that have referenced their spirit guide team, and how it could be different individuals, different types, whether it's a combination of like angel, ancestors, other spirits they've never, known in this lifetime. So for you, how did you find your spirit team, or how did you
Yeah.
connect to them?
So I originally my main guide. It took me a 10-year journey at the start of my development. I used to meditate, and I'd just see this lovely chocolate eye staring at me. And I thought, oh, I didn't know if it was masculine, feminine, what was it? It was just an eye, but I knew it was a person. And I could feel his energy. It was a male in the end. I could feel his energy. So I knew what he felt like when I was linking to him, but I couldn't see him. And I used to sit there trying so hard to connect and meditating every day to try and see him. And of course, I couldn't see him, could I? So in frustration, I just went, oh, that's it. I'm over it. I'm just not going to worry about it anymore. And I let go. And once I let go, I remembered going and having a facial one day, and I saw him completely manifested in the physical sitting there. But of course, because I'd let go, I didn't associate him with me. So I've said to the lady, oh, you've got this lovely guide over here. And I described him to her, and she's like, oh, that's odd. I didn't know I had, mine's an Indian guru, like from India. And I'm going, oh, yes, he's there, and he looks like this. And she's like, oh, okay, thanks. And then I moved off, and I went off, and I had something else later that day. And I think it was, I don't know, it could have been, oh, that's right. I was having, I agreed to be a case study for my friend who was doing kinesiology at the time. So I got on the table, and then suddenly there's the same guide again. And I started to laugh, and I was like, oh, hang on a minute. Now you're here, and you were back there with my facial lady earlier in the day. And I started laughing. I thought, oh my God, he's mine. And that's how he appeared. It was the funniest thing. Now, I'll tell you a funny story. I share this in my teachings because he showed me his old wizened self. And one day I was meditating, and I had this vision where I was walking through India, looking for, I was going through these back alleyways, and there was rows of people waiting in line. And I asked someone in line, what are you guys doing? What are you waiting for? And they all said, oh, we're waiting for the guru. And I went, oh, I might join in as well. So I've joined in. I'm going to give you the condensed version. I joined in, and I moved in through this line, went into the guru's front garden that was like an outdoor room. There was a long bench, and we all sat there. And then this beautiful young man with dark hair came up to me, all in white, and he leaned down, he looked at me, and he said, who are you here to see? And I said, I'm here to see the guru. And he goes, okay. And he waited for a bit, and I'm still waiting. And then he smiled at me, and he said, keep waiting. So he leaves, and I'm still waiting. So I kept going, and I was moving up this long bench, and he kept coming back. Who are you here to see? I said, I'm here to see the guru. And then I found that people that were after me, or, were starting to go, and I was still waiting. So I got really cross in my vision. I'm like, hang on a minute, I've been waiting here longer than them, and he hasn't come to pick me up. I thought it was the helper. I didn't know who this person was. And again, he looked at me in the eyes. He said, who are you here to see? And I'm like really cross at this stage going, I'm here to see the guru, getting annoyed. And he's just waiting, looking into my eyes. And then suddenly I realized he was my main guide as a younger man. And as soon as I realized that, I went, oh my gosh, it's you. He smiled, and he grabbed my hands, and then we kind of, connected. And I realized what he was trying to teach me is the soul is eternal. He wanted me to look in the eyes and see my guide. Because when I first said to him, what's your name? He laughed, and he said, well, which lifetime's name do you want?
Oh,
I was like, oh, you feel like a deal when they're saying this, because it's so obvious. But you're like, duh. And I went, oh, yeah. Oh, my gosh. So he showed me that lifetime was where I'd first met him in the physical. That's what that was about in the end. But he wanted me to understand that the soul was eternal. So that's how the guides are. One of the things that my team has taught me to do is draw the guides. So even today I had a sitting. I drew two people's guides for them because they wanted to know who they are. So I now have the ability to draw, and that's how I connect to mine. I can see them as well. But often you will find that wherever you're attracted to in a place or a time, or a particular era, usually you'll have a guide from there as well. It's just like a soul delight or a soul knowing. And that's how I sort of come across. But yeah, the advice for your listeners is let go. Don't be like me trying to look and find them. Just invite them, talk to them, ask them to be there, ask them to show you, to, whatever show means, whether it's visual or feeling how they are when they connect or giving you a hint. So yeah, and I have a wonderful, wonderful team. I'm lucky that, when we have guides, we have them for every part of life. So we would have mum guides, for being mums, and we would have, I'm sure I had engineering guides, and I'm sure I've got business guides, but I definitely have mediumship guides as well.
I firmly believe I have an ancient Egyptian connection.
Yeah.
I know everybody's like drawn to, but there's been a lot that
and you'll know. Don't doubt it. If that's what you believe, you will know. And they don't always have to be famous people, or American Indians or Buddhist monks. They can be just everyday people, kids. I've got a little Irish boy that comes in and he's just a normal little, little lad there, and that's how he is. It's just, he doesn't have to be anything of any huge significance, because they all come in to teach us and to guide us in different parts of our life.
Now, what is the Meraki Spiritualist Society?
Okay, so Meraki Spiritual Society.
Meraki, sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. That's quite all right. Meraki Spiritual Society. So Meraki is a Greek word. My heritage is Greek, and it means to do something with love, with soul, and compassion. And it's my way of giving back to my community. So it is a monthly gathering here in Melbourne, in Bayside, where my developing mediums get an opportunity to work with the public and give readings to the public. So they come in and they do a donation at the door. All profits go to charity, and it's a small donation. And myself, as well as my mediums, we connect with loved ones and connect to the audience members, like a gallery style, if you like. And after that, we all stay back and have a beautiful afternoon tea that is donated by a wonderful lady in our community. And we have cups of tea, and we have cakes, and we connect. And I have seen this community grow. We get about between 70 and 90 people every month that attend, and I've seen friendships grow. I've seen lost souls come in that are grieving heavily or feeling on their own or seeking, and they've now connected. They're welcomed warmly into our community. I started it 5 years ago, and it's 5 years old now, 5.5 years old. I have a little Meraki crew now that helps set up and pack up and be greeters, and just help people if they're sitting on their own, just going and sitting with them, having a cup of tea, and just allowing them to share whatever it is they need to share. And it's such a beautiful, beautiful, rewarding part of my work. I just love it.
That's so fantastic. I feel like we need a community like that.
Created. I didn't have one, so you guys created. Honestly,
Right.
It's the best.
Yeah.
Now, you've written a few books,
Yes,
correct?
correct.
Now, what do your books cover? What topics?
Yes, so my first book is Giving Spirit a Voice, and it is a manual for mediumship, if you like. Pardon me. It has a little bit about me and my story at the beginning, and I've woven stories of healing and connection through it. But every chapter covers an aspect of mediumship, and then there is a number of exercises for the reader to try out, or if you're a circle leader, for you to work with your circle and, give your students an opportunity to work with these exercises. So that's a wonderful manual. I've had such great feedback from it. And it was just a beautiful way to dip in and dip out to understand various topics. So it covers things like, what are the barriers to mediumship? What opens up your mediumship? Are you a parent of a young medium, and how do you parent it? It covers the clairs, all the different senses, how to give a reading. So a number of things that are in there, how to choose a mentor, how to be a student of mediumship. All those things are in there. The second book that I've released is a companion book to that called it's still Giving Spirit a Voice, Mediumship Journal. And I've designed that journal to, there's sections in there where, the opening is to get to know you as a soul, to spiritualize yourself. So there's a space for you to connect to your soul, and I've got instructions in that journal how to do that. There's a section to record your practice readings, and there's a couple of exercises in there for you to do as well. And it's filled with quotes that are inspirational, that just help you prompt to learn a little bit about yourself. So they're my two published books that I've got at the moment. And I also have an app on the Google and App stores called Spiritly, so Spirit LY. And in there, the app also has its exercises. So if you're a circle leader or you're just wanting to learn for yourself, you can go through, and they've been put into categories according to each clair. So clairsentience. And in there, you've also got my meditations on how to set your energy, clear your energy, and sit in the power. So you've got guided meditations in there, and that's a wonderful little tool to use when you're developing as well.
You created so many resources for people, so there's no excuse. No,
That's
Right? Like I don't think we've had anybody on who's had an app yet, so that's pretty
that's
am
pretty
I the
neat.
first?
Yeah.
Yay!
I'm gonna have to download the app.
Yeah, so Spirit LY.
Now, where can people find more about you?
Yeah, so look, they definitely can come through my website. I'm also very excited in that website because I've created an online mediumship school, and you can access it from anywhere in the world. So if you go under my member community and look under Ignition member community, there's 3 levels there. There's the emerging medium, which is for the absolute beginner, that is full of modules, a downloadable workbook that you can work in their meditations. The evidential medium is level 2. So if you're already working and you want to increase your ability to create evidence, then that's the one that you do. You also get me in that one, so you'll actually get a 2-hour monthly mini masterclass plus exercises that are guided by me. And if you are wanting to run a business in it, and then it's the experienced medium, and I have business modules in there as well, plus how to demonstrate medium to the public as well, being a demonstrating medium. So it's www.ioannaserpanos.com. So Ioanna is IOANNASERPANOS.com. You can also reach me on Instagram, Ioanna Serpanos Medium, and you'll be able to connect with me there as well. So, yeah, many different ways. I'm also on Facebook, so you can definitely find me under my name on Facebook as well. So any one of those 3 ways is definitely a way to reach out and connect with me.
I really appreciate you coming on, and I am so grateful that you're willing to share all of these different pieces of your life, as well as being open about this, because as much as our spiritual world is being talked about more, it is still a bit taboo, and people still can mimic or mock it. And so I appreciate your willingness to come on and talk about this with us.
Oh, look, it's been my absolute pleasure, and I really appreciate you both giving me the opportunity to get here and to share my absolute love for spirit. And it was just, you made it easy. I loved being on here. Thank you so much.
No, thank you. All right, John Thomas.
All right. Yes, thank you again. Everything happens for a reason, I believe, and you came on at the right time for us and for whoever's listening to this episode when it releases. So thank you for coming on again. And thank you to all of our listeners for listening to this episode of 3Haunted Podcast with your host. I'm John Thomas.
I am Ashley Lunar Goddess.
If you have any questions, comments, or episode suggestions, please feel free to email us at 300podcast@gmail.com. And going back to the other part that I said earlier, if you haven't done so already, please like, follow, and subscribe to all of our social media. You don't want to miss amazing guests like Ioanna.
Until next time. Are you looking for more awesome podcasts? Head on over to withoutyourhead.com for access to the Without Your Head podcast network, where you'll find a variety of podcasts sure to keep you entertained and coming back for more.